Oh,
It's okay to cry.
yeah, I know. It's emotional. So emotional.
Girls and boys do cry. That's okay.
So this is it. This is the conversation.
Hi everyone, I am Linda Similani. I am 29 years of age, all the way from Soweto, Johannesburg, and I serve as the client liaison and project manager for a social marketing agency.
Thank
Hi
you.
everyone. Hi, I'm Melissa.
Hi, Vafa.
Hi, my my name is Vafa Narori. I'm 30 years old from Cape Town, and I'm a stand-up comedian as well as a master's student in civil engineering.
My name is Pamanda Mhlongo, a program officer for an NGO in Durban, 27-year-old Cancer.
Thank you for throwing that in. Very important. Very important.
Hi everyone, I am Sahba Sabarian from the UK in England, or England, UK, and I'm a freelance TV and film editor.
So most importantly, I'm a Gemini, and I don't know why we missed that this round. It's like the most important revealing information.
Yes, and the long walks on the beach. How could you throw that in?
I'm 37. I'm based in the UK, and all of my work is about relational well-being. So how we can how we can move the paradigm away from relationships of zero-sum power and move more towards relationships of reciprocity and mutual respect, whether that's at the individual level, within communities, or also in institutions and organizations.
I think a really good place to start would be to talk about your most kind of your standout memories of the times that you thought, this is probably what it means to be a man.
Maybe perhaps not a very fond memory or something I can think of at the top of my head, but the notion of being a man and what we grow up to be exposed to, particularly in the Black community, is that the man is the father of the home, the head of the home, commands respect, and he is the provider of the home. So everything that we want to do needs to go through him. But over the years, I'd like to think that has, shifted. Also, we've seen single fathers, which is something that for me, I think is very commendable. It would be those little conversations you would have with your father, your uncle, or even in a taxi with a taxi driver. It would be so random that they would share their experiences and what they think a man is and a man should do.
Is anyone thinking there's absolutely, the fact that there's a natural shift in these dynamics is purely, it's economics. It's got nothing to do with our assigned roles, and it's about women getting more opportunities, and it's purely all these external forces that are guiding how people are defining themselves? Or are there still some intrinsic things that are still guiding our roles and our behaviors and our attitudes?
It's an interesting sort of follow-up, because the question you asked earlier was just when did we say, when was the first time we realized what it means to be a man, which for me could be interpreted as, when did I connect to the idea of what it is to be a man, as opposed to just hear and see things out there. And so for me, I was raised primarily by females in the family. So grandmother, mother, and then her sisters, who played a predominantly sort of rearing role in my life and nurturing role in my life. So whilst I was exposed to facets of masculinity and being a man in the external environment, I only sort of felt what it was to be a man at a grown stage. So the first time I got paid and I was able to pay groceries at home was when I felt really proud of myself as a man. So that was an interesting thing looking back now, because I always felt like there was something missing in my sort of nurturing process because of the absence of the male figure. Whether it was the process of like, how do you get into a relationship with a female, for instance, you know, like those circles of men and how you sort of talk each other into a space where you have the confidence to approach a woman. How do you take care of that environment? I felt like I'm not sure. And then with your follow-up about, is it a case of economics versus something intrinsic? Being in sort of the social justice space, I hope it's something intrinsic. I hope it's something that people are recognizing and doing willfully, as opposed to just saying that it's a result of the circumstances that we're confronted by. Hate it or love it, we're going to have to deal with women being, being empowered and all of that sort of stuff. So I hope it's something that people are genuinely willing to learn and be better at in terms of just how to be a better human being.
For me, the words that are key for everybody, you just said how to be a better human being. Mm-hmm. Because like ultimately we can all say yes, you know, we can agree on a set of like some sort of charter, how to be a man charter, but actually will those things just translate to how to be a better human being?
Yeah. And just to go back to one of the points I was said earlier about the conversations that were had, I think in my experience, now that I think about it, it's perhaps the conversations that were not had, that were perhaps giving us a false idea of, you know, of the role of man in society and the family and so on. It's so much was implied, perhaps, like in my experience. So I grew up in Uruguay. I grew up in a very, you know, like in South American kind of culture, which could actually, like, you know, back then was very male dominated in that sense. So I think that also informs so much about, you know, your misconception or your conceptions, and then later on in life, for example, for me, I had to face those misconceptions, or you know, even if I didn't realize that something was actually, you know, informing my decisions, was because of that, you know, those misconceptions, and I have to, in my experience, kind of like unravel those things and tackle them and yeah, question them as well.
That's the internal work, right? Yeah. And everybody's faced with that, and it's part of that journey, I think, being able to reflect and being able to look within and say, okay, so why did I react like that? And why did that bother me so much? Mm-hmm. And could it be linked to something that I've experienced and maybe my conditioning, rather than as something that's part of my personality?
If I remember about the first times I got introduced to the concept of male and female, it was almost like what was my position as a boy and what is a boy supposed to do? And I can remember almost in primary school, grade 2 or grade 3, when, you know, the boys would all play together and we just started playing sport, and now you're competing with the other boys. You need to show that you are better to impress the girls, for instance, or to even the whole idea of approaching a girl. You are the one that is supposed to initiate the interaction, and you're supposed to show this and that. So it almost, if I could think of it in a way, it put me in a world where you're on your own. You need to now compete against everybody else. Mm-hmm. And now it's almost like the impetus is on you to make the first move with whatever you want to do, whether it's your academics, your sports, initiating a relationship, or whatever it is. It's you are the initiator, you are the starter, you're responsible for the process. I don't think I thought too much about what the role of woman was at that point, but I definitely sort of grew into what I need to do as a boy to survive or to excel.
It's almost a little bit sad how isolating that must be from a female perspective. You guys are like, no, it's nothing wrong. We're like, oh my God, did you have anyone to talk to?
Exactly, that's exactly what I thought of.
Like, did you ever feel like you could sit down and go, I really don't know how to navigate this? Did you ever feel like you wanted to have that conversation with anybody?